Tonight, you are gently invited to uncover a quiet truth that Buddhist monks have relied on for countless generations. Way of soothing the restless mind and settling into deep, nourishing rest. I will share 10 timeless Zen stories, each one carefully carried through centuries, stories that have helped countless people soften their thoughts, release inner tension, and drift naturally into peaceful sleep. Within every story lies a subtle key, a doorway that opens the mind's own ability to loosen its grip on worry and return to stillness. What makes this journey different from ordinary sleep meditations is its simplicity. These teachings do not demand effort or prior experience. They work even if you have never meditated before. They work even if your thoughts feel endless, even if nothing else has helped. The Buddha once taught, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. Over the next 3 hours, you will slowly come to understand what these words truly mean and how they quietly apply to your own life. As we move through stories of empty boats, wandering monks, and unexpected moments of wisdom, you may begin to notice a subtle shift. The weight you have been carrying starts to melt away. Your breathing softens. Your thoughts lose their sharp edges and begin to slow. Without effort, your body eases into a state of deep relaxation. So allow yourself to settle now. Adjust your pillow. Let your body sink fully into the bed beneath you. Feel its steady support. Take one slow, gentle breath with me. And as you exhale, know that you have just stepped onto a path that has always been waiting for you quietly, patiently, since the beginning of time. Let us begin with the first story. Our first story unfolds beside a calm river, where a simple moment reveals a profound lesson about the nature of our reactions. This is known as the story of the empty boat. There once lived a man who loved rowing his boat along a peaceful river. The gentle movement of water, the open sky, and the quiet solitude brought him great joy. Each evening, as the sun lowered itself into warm, golden hues, he would guide his boat onto the river and drift in silence, savoring the stillness of the world around him. One evening, as he paddled softly and rested in the calm, he noticed another boat drifting straight toward him. At first, he called out calmly, asking the other person to be careful. But the boat did not change direction. It continued moving closer. Annoyance began to rise. His voice grew louder as he shouted warnings, frustration filling the space that moments before had been peaceful. As the distance between the two boats disappeared, anger surged within him. He braced himself to confront the careless person who had disrupted his quiet evening. But when the boats finally touched, he looked closely and realized something unexpected. The other boat was completely empty. No one was inside. It was simply being carried by the current. In that instant, his anger vanished. He sat quietly, almost amused by himself, having shouted at nothing at all. The situation had not changed. The boats still collided. What changed was his understanding. There was no intention, no disrespect, no one to blame. The Buddha taught, "You will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger." This truth reveals itself clearly in the story of the empty boat. Our irritation and resentment often arise not from events themselves, but from the meaning we attach to them. In Zen Buddhism, this habit is rooted in the ego's need to protect and defend a separate self. When something unpleasant happens, the ego interprets it as personal. Someone cuts us off in traffic and the mind says, "How dare they?" A simple event becomes a personal attack. Throughout each day, we encounter many empty boats. A driver who seems rude may be rushing to help someone in need. A coworker who seems distant may be carrying private grief. A friend who hasn't replied may be quietly overwhelmed. Yet the ego quickly fills these empty boats with stories of neglect or disrespect. Zen practice invites us to notice this pattern. Through mindful awareness, we observe thoughts without immediately believing them. We feel the tightening in the chest, the shallow breath, the heat of emotion, and we let these sensations remind us to pause. Zen Master Dogen taught that to study the way is to study the self, and to study the self is to forget the self. When the self loosens its grip, the empty boats reveal themselves as they truly are, simple events flowing within the vast river of life. The Buddha also taught that holding onto anger is like grasping a burning coal, intending to throw it at another, while being the one who is burned. Each time we react with anger, we suffer first. Recognizing empty boats frees us from this unnecessary pain. As you reflect quietly tonight, recall a moment when you felt offended. Can you see the empty boat there? Can you feel the relief that comes from letting the story dissolve? Peace, as the Buddha taught, is already within you, waiting for this recognition. Now, we gently walk onto a mountain path, where another lesson awaits in the story of the monk and the tiger. Long ago, in a quiet monastery hidden deep within the forest, lived a monk known for his calm presence and gentle wisdom. Each day, he walked alone through the woods, absorbing the sounds of nature and resting in mindful awareness. The forest was his teacher, and silence was his companion. One day, while walking along a narrow path, a thunderous roar shattered the stillness. A tiger burst from the trees, charging straight toward him. Fear surged through his body, and without thinking, the monk ran. His robes fluttered as he fled, heart pounding. Ahead, he saw a vine hanging over the edge of a cliff. With no other option, he grabbed it and climbed down. As he looked below, his breath caught. Another tiger waited at the bottom, pacing slowly. Above him was danger. Below him was danger. Suspended between the two tigers, the monk paused. And in that moment, he noticed something small growing from the cliffside, a single ripe strawberry. Calmly, he reached out, picked it, and placed it in his mouth. The sweetness filled his senses. It was perfect. For that brief moment, fear disappeared. There was only taste, only presence, only now. The Buddha taught, do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. This teaching lives at the heart of this story. We, too, often live suspended between two tigers, the weight of past regrets and the anxiety of imagined futures. The mind, shaped by survival, constantly scans for danger, pulling us away from the only moment we truly have. Past mistakes, painful memories, missed chances, these hover above us. Future worries, health, work, uncertainty, pace below us. Yet right here, right now, there is always a strawberry. Zen teacher Thich Nhat Hanh taught that the present moment is filled with joy, if we know how to look. The warmth of your blanket, the rhythm of your breath, the quiet of this room. These are small sweetnesses, always available. Zen practice reminds us that each moment is unique and unrepeatable. When we truly understand this, we naturally soften into presence. The Buddha taught that health of mind and body comes from not clinging to past or future, but from living wisely in the present. Tonight, as thoughts arise, gently return to your strawberry. Whatever brings even a hint of ease. There is no path to happiness, the Buddha said. Happiness is the path itself. Now we arrive at another teaching, one that gently reveals the nature of suffering. This is the story of the two arrows. One day, the Buddha sat quietly with his disciples beneath tall trees swaying in the breeze. A troubled student approached and asked why suffering seemed unavoidable in life. The Buddha listened with compassion, then spoke softly. Imagine a person struck by an arrow. The pain is real and unavoidable. This is the first arrow. Then imagine that the same person is struck by a second arrow, created by the mind. Fear, anger, resistance. This is the second arrow. The first arrow is part of life. The second is optional. When pain arises, we often add suffering by resisting it, identifying with it, and thinking endlessly about it. But through mindfulness, we can see pain clearly without adding more. Pain is inevitable, the Buddha taught. Suffering is optional. Zen explains that aversion, identification, and mental proliferation are the roots of the second arrow. A simple discomfort becomes a storm of thoughts. Each thought another arrow. By observing pain without merging with it, by allowing space, we stop the second arrow before it strikes. As you rest now, allow sensations, thoughts, and feelings to come and go. Nothing needs to be fixed. Nothing needs to be solved. In this gentle awareness, the mind begins to rest, and the body follows, drifting softly toward sleep. These patterns of mind often function beneath our awareness, which is why the Buddha emphasized mindfulness as the path of release. Through mindful practice, we slowly gain the ability to see these habits the moment they arise. We begin to notice the clear distinction between the unavoidable first arrow of pain and the optional second arrows created by our reactions. The Buddha taught, "What you think, you become. What you feel, you attract. What you imagine, you create." These words point gently to the creative force of the mind. Each time pain is met with resistance, self-blame, or endless thinking, suffering is multiplied. Each time pain is met with gentle awareness and acceptance, space opens for healing and understanding. Imagine a personal disappointment, a rejection, a failure, or a loss. The first arrow is the event itself and the natural feeling it brings. The second arrows appear as thoughts like, "This always happens to me," "I will never succeed," "I should have been better," or "This is unfair." Every such thought adds another layer of suffering beyond the original pain. Zen teacher Charlotte Joko Beck said, "Pain is not something to be avoided. It is something to be experienced without resistance." This is the heart of learning to work skillfully with the first arrow. We do not deny pain or pretend it is not there. Instead, we offer it gentle, curious attention, free from judgment and storytelling. The Buddha taught, if you are facing in the right direction, all you need to do is keep walking. The right direction is toward pain, not away from it. By turning toward difficult experiences with mindful presence, we learn to be with them without adding the second arrows that deepen suffering. Tonight, as sensations move through your body or emotions rise and fall in your mind, see if you can sense the difference between the first arrow and the second. Can physical discomfort, emotional tenderness, or mental restlessness be met with kindness rather than resistance? As the Buddha said, The way is not found in the sky. The way is found in the heart. Freedom does not come from escaping human life, but from meeting it with wisdom and compassion. Now let us enter a story that teaches us about loss and how understanding it can soften the heart. This is the parable of the mustard seed. Long ago, there lived a young woman named Kisa Gautami. She was gentle and devoted, and her world revolved around her only child, a beloved son. One day, the child fell ill and passed away. Overwhelmed by grief, Kisa could not accept what had happened. She carried her son's body from house to house, pleading with anyone she met to bring him back to life. At every door she begged, "Please help me. My son is dead. Is there someone who can cure him?" But everywhere she went, people gently turned her away. Her sorrow grew heavier with each step, her heart aching more deeply with every refusal. Eventually, someone said to her, "Go to the Buddha. Perhaps he can help you." With fragile hope, Kisa hurried to him. She found the Buddha sitting peacefully beneath a tree, surrounded by his students. She placed her son before him and cried, "Master, please bring my child back. I cannot endure this pain." The Buddha looked at her with deep compassion. He understood her suffering and also knew she needed to discover a profound truth. After a moment, he spoke softly. "I can help you, Kisa. But first, bring me a mustard seed." Relief flooded her heart. "Yes, Master, I will bring it," she said. Then the Buddha added, "The seed must come from a household that has never known death." Kisa eagerly went from house to house. At each door, she asked for a mustard seed from a family untouched by death. And at each door, she heard stories of loss: a husband, a mother, a child, a sibling. As the day passed, her understanding slowly changed. Death, she realized, had touched every family. At sunset, she returned to the Buddha empty-handed. Kneeling before him, she said, "Master, I could not find such a house. Every family has known loss. Now I understand that death is part of life." The Buddha nodded gently and said, "You have learned an important truth. What is born must die. Attachment brings suffering. When impermanence is accepted, peace becomes possible." Kisa's grief did not vanish, but it softened. She released her son's body and honored him with dignity. In understanding that her loss was shared by all beings, her heart found a quiet peace. The Buddha taught, "Everything that begins must end. Make peace with this and all will be well." This truth lies at the center of Kisa Gautami's journey. Nothing lasts forever, and resisting this reality only deepens pain. Zen teaches that our craving for permanence is the root of suffering. We want joy to remain, beauty to stay unchanged, and those we love to never leave us. But life flows otherwise. Like Kisa, we often deny loss, spending great energy trying to undo what cannot be undone. The Buddha did not lecture her. He offered an experience that allowed understanding to arise naturally. He taught that attachment binds us, and that seeing impermanence frees the heart. When we recognize that loss touches everyone, our grief becomes less isolating. It becomes part of the shared human journey. Zen Master Bosway wrote, "To see the truth, let go of desire." Only when Kisa released her impossible wish could peace begin to grow. Acceptance is not defeat. It is alignment with reality, the only place healing can begin. The Buddha reminded us, "The trouble is, you think you have time." This awareness does not darken life. It deepens appreciation. Knowing nothing lasts invites us to live with tenderness and presence. Tonight, as you reflect on losses you have known or fear, remember Kisa Gautami. Can you find comfort in knowing that impermanence connects us all? As the Buddha taught, in the end, what matters is how deeply we loved, how gently we lived, and how gracefully we let go. Now we turn to a story about balance and non-judgment. This is the tale of the farmer and the horse. In a small village lived a humble farmer, known for his quiet manner. He owned little, only a single horse that helped him work the land. One morning the horse ran away. Neighbors gathered, saying, "How terrible! What bad luck!" The farmer replied calmly, "Maybe." Days later, the horse returned, bringing several wild horses with it. The neighbors exclaimed, "How wonderful! What good fortune!" The farmer said again, "Maybe." Soon after, the farmer's son was thrown from one of the wild horses and broke his leg. The neighbors returned with sympathy. "What bad luck!" The farmer replied, "Maybe." Not long after, soldiers came to draft young men for war. Because of his injury, the farmer's son was spared. Once more, the neighbors said, "How fortunate!" And once more, the farmer said, "Maybe." The Buddha taught that all things change. What seems good or bad is never final. The farmer's wisdom lay in equanimity, a steady heart amid constant change. Zen teaches that judging events pulls us onto an emotional swing. When judgment falls away, peace remains. The farmer cared deeply, but he did not let circumstances steal his calm. As you reflect tonight on events you have labeled good or bad, try holding them gently with a quiet maybe. Notice how the heart softens when judgment loosens its grip. And now we come to a story about non-reactivity and inner mastery. This is the story of the Buddha and the angry man. One day, while the Buddha was teaching beneath the trees, a man approached, filled with anger and jealousy. He hurled insults, trying to provoke a reaction. The Buddha remained still and silent, his face calm and open. The man shouted louder, confused by the lack of response. Finally exhausted, he demanded, "Why don't you answer me? Don't you care what I say?" The Buddha looked at him with gentle eyes and spoke softly. "Tell me," the Buddha said gently, his voice calm and steady, "if someone offers you a gift and you choose not to accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man, surprised by the question, paused to think. After a moment he answered, "It would still belong to the person who offered it. If I do not take it, the gift remains theirs." The Buddha nodded softly. "Exactly so. And in the same way, if you offer me your anger and I do not accept it, then to whom does that anger belong?" The man fell silent. The meaning of the Buddha's words settled slowly into his heart. He saw clearly that his anger had not touched the Buddha at all. It had remained entirely within himself, a weight he alone was carrying. The Buddha continued, "If I refuse your insults and your anger, they return to you. You are the one who suffers from them, not I. I choose not to receive them. I choose peace." Standing there, the man felt his anger dissolve into shame and understanding. He realized that his fury had burned inside him while the Buddha had remained unmoved, free, and serene. Bowing his head, he said quietly, "Master, I see now that my anger has only harmed me. How can I learn to be at peace as you are?" The Buddha smiled, warmth and compassion shining from his eyes. Anger is like a hot coal you pick up with the intention of throwing it at another. Before it ever leaves your hand, It burns you. Put the coal down. Release your anger. Practice mindfulness, compassion, and understanding. In this way, peace will arise naturally. Humbled and grateful, the man bowed deeply and left with a lighter heart. From that day on, he practiced letting go of anger and learning to find peace within himself. The Buddha taught, "You are not punished for your anger. You are punished by your anger." This insight reveals why reactive emotions cause such suffering. Anger, resentment, and hatred wound us far more deeply than those at whom they are directed. Every moment spent in anger is a moment taken from peace. Every thought of revenge drains energy that could be used for healing. Why is anger so difficult to release? Zen Buddhism points to several causes. One is our sense of righteousness, the belief that our anger is justified and therefore necessary. We mistake letting go of anger for approving harmful behavior. Yet the Buddha showed that we can set boundaries and seek justice without poisoning our own hearts. Another cause is our identification with emotion. We say, "I am angry," instead of, "Anger is arising." When anger feels like who we are, releasing it feels like losing part of ourselves. Zen practice gently creates space between awareness and emotion, allowing anger to be seen without being obeyed. There is also our conditioning. Many are taught that anger is strength, that it fuels action and commands respect. We fear that without anger we will be weak. But the Buddha demonstrated a deeper power, not the force of reaction, but the quiet strength of equanimity. The Buddha said, "Hatred is never ended by hatred. It is ended only by love." This timeless truth invites reflection. Does meeting hostility with hostility ever truly resolve suffering, or does it simply continue the cycle? The gift metaphor reminds us that anger, judgment, and criticism only affect us if we accept them. When negativity is offered, we have a choice. We can receive it and let it disturb our peace, or we can decline it and remain steady. This does not mean indifference or withdrawal. The Buddha remained present and responsive, but rooted in compassion rather than ego. This is the heart of non-reactivity. Zen teacher Thich Nhat Hanh taught the practice of embracing anger with mindfulness, recognizing it, breathing with it, and holding it gently, like a crying child. Instead of suppressing or exploding, we meet anger with understanding and patience, knowing it will pass. The Buddha said, "If you truly loved yourself, you would never harm another." When we choose peace over reactivity, we are not sacrificing ourselves. We are caring for ourselves in the deepest way. Tonight, as you remember moments that stirred anger or resentment, consider the Buddha's teaching. Can you notice that you have a choice about which gifts you accept? Can you feel the ease that comes from laying the hot coal down? Now let us turn to a story that teaches the wisdom of impermanence and non-attachment. This is the story of the monk and the teacup. High in the mountains, in a quiet Zen monastery, lived an old monk known for his calm presence and simple wisdom. Each day he meditated, drank tea, and taught his students with gentle clarity. One afternoon during tea, the monk lifted a simple clay cup and looked at it in silence. After a long moment, he said softly, "This teacup is already broken." The students looked at one another in confusion. The cup was whole, smooth, and uncracked. One student finally asked, "Master, the cup is not broken. Why do you say this?" The monk placed the cup carefully on the table. "In my mind," he said, "this cup is already broken. Perhaps tomorrow, perhaps years from now, it will break. This is certain. Knowing this, I can enjoy it fully now, without fear. I drink my tea in peace. The students understood that he was speaking not only of the cup, but of life itself. Everything is like this, the monk continued. All things are impermanent. When we accept this, we are free to love and enjoy without clinging. When things pass, we do not collapse, because we already knew their nature. One student asked, "Does this mean we should not love, since all things end?" The monk shook his head gently. "No, it means we love more deeply. When we accept impermanence, love becomes freer, not bound by fear." The Buddha taught, all conditioned things are impermanent. Seeing this with wisdom, one is freed from suffering. This truth lies at the heart of the teacup story. We suffer because we misunderstand reality, believing things to be solid and lasting when they are fluid and changing. We cling to possessions, relationships, youth, health, and even ideas, trying to hold what cannot be held. Seeing the teacup as already broken is not pessimism. It is clear seeing. It releases anxiety and deepens appreciation. As the Buddha said, the wise do not grieve excessively, for they understand the nature of the world. The monk loved his teacup not less, but more, because he knew it was fleeting. Impermanence does not diminish beauty. It intensifies it. Tonight, consider the teacups in your own life, those things you hold tightly, fearing their loss. Can you gently acknowledge their impermanence, not as a threat, but as an invitation to cherish them now? And now we move into a story of generosity and compassion. This is the story of the Buddha and the robe. During the Buddha's travels through ancient villages, many were inspired by his teachings. One day, a wealthy merchant filled with respect and gratitude came to see him. He brought a magnificent silk robe, richly woven and finely decorated. Bowing deeply, the merchant offered the robe and said, "Lord Buddha, please accept this gift as an expression of my devotion." The Buddha looked at the robe, then at the man, and smiled gently. "Thank you for your kindness," he said, "but I cannot accept this robe. It is too fine for a simple monk. I am content with what I have." The merchant was surprised. "But surely you deserve the best," he said. The Buddha replied softly, "If you wish to honor me, give this robe to someone who has none. Offer it where it is truly needed. That will bring greater merit and deeper joy." And as the merchant listened, he felt his heart open, understanding that true generosity is not about giving to those we admire, but about easing suffering wherever it appears. The merchant slowly inclined his head, sensing the depth of the Buddha's compassion for those who lived with little. In that moment, he understood that true generosity was not about giving where abundance already existed, but about easing the suffering of those who had none. With a quiet voice, he replied, "Thank you, blessed one. I will follow your guidance." Taking the robe with care, the merchant later walked through the village and noticed a poor man trembling in the cold, wrapped only in worn and tattered cloth. Without hesitation, the merchant placed the warm robe around the man's shoulders. The poor man's eyes filled with tears as gratitude softened his face. The following day, the merchant returned to the Buddha and gently shared what he had done. The Buddha listened, then nodded with calm approval. "You have acted wisely," he said. "True generosity does not seek recognition, nor does it give where there is excess. It responds to real need. When you relieve suffering with a compassionate heart, You bring genuine peace into the world." The merchant bowed deeply, feeling a warmth within his chest unlike anything he had known before. He realized that the Buddha's teaching was not about the object that was given, but about the transformation that occurred within the giver. Through compassion, his heart had softened, and joy had quietly taken root. The Buddha once taught, "Generosity brings happiness in its beginning, its middle, and its end." We experience joy when the intention to give arises, peace during the act itself, and quiet contentment when we remember what we have shared. This wisdom reveals that generosity is not merely the movement of possessions, but the gentle reshaping of the mind toward openness and care. Why did the Buddha decline such a luxurious offering? Zen teachings reveal several layers of understanding in his response. First, he embodied the wisdom of knowing what is enough. Desire, when unchecked, has no ending. By being content with simplicity, the Buddha demonstrated freedom from endless wanting. Second, he understood that generosity guided by wisdom serves suffering more directly than generosity guided by status or convention. Redirecting the robe toward someone who truly needed warmth turned a symbolic offering into a compassionate act. Third, the Buddha recognized the merchant's sincere wish to gain merit and express reverence. Rather than rejecting this wish, he gently redirected it toward an action that would relieve suffering and cultivate deeper compassion. In our modern world, we often confuse generosity with spending. We give costly gifts to those who already have much, measuring kindness by price rather than impact. The Buddha's teaching invites us to pause and ask where our time, energy, and resources might bring true relief. He once said, "If you knew the power of giving, you would not let a single meal pass without sharing." This reminds us that generosity transforms not only the receiver, but the giver as well. Each sincere act of giving loosens the grip of self-centeredness and strengthens our connection to all beings. Zen practice encourages the cultivation of dana, the perfection of giving. This includes not only material offerings, but the gift of presence, attention, and listening. Sometimes the most healing gift is simply being fully there, without distraction or judgment. The story also teaches discernment. The Buddha did not suggest that the robe be kept or sold. He guided the merchant to look carefully and respond where suffering was real. True generosity requires awareness, not habit. The Buddha taught, "The gift itself is the greatest gift." When we give from compassion rather than obligation, we experience what Buddhists call sympathetic joy, happiness in the happiness of others. As you rest tonight, gently reflect on your own acts of giving. Notice whether they arise from expectation or from care. Feel the difference in your body, in your breath. Remember these words: if beings truly understood the fruits of generosity, selfishness would lose its hold on the mind. Now let us move into a quieter story, one that speaks of thoughts and the burdens we carry within them. This is the story of the two monks and the river. An elder monk and his younger companion were traveling together, walking long distances through forests and valleys. Most of the journey passed in mindful silence, each step taken with awareness, each breath calm and steady. When they reached a river swollen by recent rains, they saw a young woman standing nearby. She wore fine clothing and looked distressed, unsure how to cross without damaging her garments or risking harm. Seeing the monks, she called out softly, asking for help. Without hesitation, the elder monk approached, lifted her gently, and carried her across the river. Once safely on the other side, he set her down, and she bowed in gratitude before continuing on her way. The monks resumed their journey. Hours passed in silence, yet the younger monk's brow tightened with unease. At last he spoke. "Master, we have taken vows not to touch women. How could you carry her?" The elder monk smiled gently. "I put her down at the riverbank," he said. "Why are you still carrying her?" The younger monk fell silent, realizing that while the elder had acted with compassion and released the moment, he himself had been burdened by judgment, replaying the scene again and again. The Buddha taught, "What we think, we become." While the elder monk carried the woman briefly with care, the younger monk carried her for hours in his mind, disturbing his peace. Zen teaches that we suffer not from what happens, but from what we hold on to. Attachment to rules without understanding, judgment without compassion, and thoughts without release all create unnecessary weight. In daily life, we carry many invisible burdens: past conversations, imagined futures, repeated regrets. Each is like carrying someone across a river and never setting them down. The Buddha said, "Let go of the past. Let go of the future. Let go of the present." In release, the mind finds freedom. Mindfulness allows us to notice when we are carrying what no longer needs to be held. With each breath, we can gently set these burdens down and return to the quiet simplicity of now. As sleep approaches, notice your thoughts like drifting clouds. You do not need to follow them. You can let them pass. Nothing is worth clinging to. In letting go, peace naturally arises. And now, as the night deepens, we turn to one final teaching, a story about the obstacles we create within our own minds. This is the story of the empty cup. When the mind is crowded with assumptions, we no longer meet life directly. We see the world through layers of expectation, habit, and memory. What appears before us is filtered through what we believe should be there, not what truly is. In this way, the richness of reality becomes narrowed, shaped to fit familiar ideas rather than experienced as it unfolds. Zen practice gently guides us toward emptying the cup of the mind. Through meditation, we begin to notice how quickly we label sensations, classify experiences, and judge moments using the past. Simply seeing these habits creates space, a quiet distance between raw awareness and the stories we place upon it. In this space, we practice setting aside what we think we know, allowing life to reveal itself directly. The Buddha taught, "With our thoughts, we shape the world." When thoughts harden, the world becomes confined and predictable. When the mind softens and opens, life expands, revealing depth and wonder beyond expectation. In daily life, notice the moments when your cup is already full. Perhaps it is during a conversation, when your response forms before the other person finishes speaking. Perhaps it is a routine task done automatically, without presence. Or a person you believe you fully understand, leaving no room for them to change or surprise you. Tonight, as you rest, gently practice emptying your cup. Release what you believe you know about rest, about sleep, even about these stories you are hearing. Listen as though these words are arriving for the very first time. Feel the openness that appears when you no longer need to analyze or evaluate. The Buddha once said, "Empty your boat, and it will travel lightly." In the same way, when the mind is released from preconception, we move through life with greater ease and quiet joy. Now, let us turn to a story that reveals wisdom hidden in unexpected places. This is the story of the Zen master and the muddy road. A Zen master traveled through the countryside with his disciples during the rainy season. The road beneath their feet had become thick with mud, each step requiring patience and care. Along the way, they noticed a magnificent temple rising on a nearby hill. Drawn by its beauty, the group climbed upward to visit. The temple was grand and carefully adorned. Golden statues shimmered softly in the light, gardens were trimmed with precision, and monks in spotless robes performed rituals with graceful movements and resonant chants. The disciples watched with admiration, impressed by the refinement and discipline they witnessed. After some time, they gathered outside and asked their teacher, "Master, is this the path to awakening?" The Zen master did not answer. Instead, he guided them back down the hill to the muddy road they had been walking earlier. Stopping at a particularly dirty section, he knelt, placed his hand into the mud, and slowly drew a circle on the ground. Looking at his students, he said quietly, "The truth can be found here as well." At first, the disciples were confused. Then understanding arose. Awakening was not confined to temples or rituals. The mud, ordinary, messy, and avoided, held the same reality as the Golden Hall. Wisdom existed everywhere for those willing to see. The Buddha taught, "If you cannot find the truth where you stand, where else will you find it?" This teaching challenges the belief that insight belongs only to special places or ideal conditions. We often overlook wisdom in ordinary moments because of what Zen calls spiritual striving, the habit of treating enlightenment as something to acquire. We search for extraordinary experiences, forgetting that daily life itself is the ground of awakening. The mud represents the parts of life we resist: discomfort, fatigue, conflict, uncertainty. We imagine growth means rising above these experiences, unaware that they contain the very understanding we seek. In Japanese aesthetics, there is a concept called wabi-sabi, the beauty of imperfection and impermanence. A cracked cup, weathered hands, an untended garden. These reveal quiet truth when seen clearly. Zen teacher Dogen wrote, "If you cannot find the truth right where you are, where do you expect to find it?" Temples, teachings, and rituals point the way, but they are not the destination itself. In practice, this wisdom invites us to bring gentle attention to simple moments. Washing dishes, standing in line, feeling tired, meeting difficulty. These are not interruptions to practice, they are the practice. The Buddha taught, "My teaching is born of direct experience." True understanding arises not from ideas, but from meeting life as it is. Tonight, reflect on the muddy places in your own life, the moments you resist or wish away. Can you meet them with the same openness you offer beauty and calm? When even the messiest moments are approached with awareness, they become pathways rather than obstacles. Now, let us turn to a story about true mastery. This is the story of the master archer. Long ago, in ancient China, there lived an archer whose skill was unmatched. His arrows never strayed, and his reputation reached even the emperor, who honored him with wealth and praise. One day, a young archer approached, eager to learn. Bowing deeply, he asked, "Master, I have practiced for many years, yet I seek the highest mastery. Please teach me your secret." The master studied him quietly, then said, "Meet me at dawn on the mountain." At sunrise, they stood not before targets, but at the edge of a high cliff. The master stepped forward, drew his bow, and released an arrow effortlessly into the distance. Then he turned. "Now you." The young archer approached the edge. Seeing the vast drop below, his breath tightened, his hands shook. Fear overtook his focus. At last he stepped back. "I cannot shoot," he said. "The fear is too strong." The master nodded. "This is the lesson. When I shoot, there is only bow, arrow, and target. No fear, no desire, no self. You miss not because of lack of skill, but because your mind is divided. When you act with your whole being, undisturbed by fear or outcome, mastery appears naturally." The young archer bowed, realizing the teaching reached far beyond archery. The Buddha taught, "Discover your work, then give yourself to it fully." True mastery arises from complete presence, when the self dissolves into the moment. We struggle with this because the mind fragments itself through self-consciousness, attachment to results, and unnecessary fear. When these fall away, action flows effortlessly. Zen calls this state mushin, mind. Athletes call it the zone. Artists feel carried by the work. Musicians become the music. The Buddha said, "Like a rock unmoved by wind, the wise remain steady amid praise and blame." This steadiness comes not from force, but from full immersion in what is here. As night settles and breath slows, allow yourself to rest in this undivided presence. Nothing to achieve, nothing to prove. Just awareness, gently returning home. Zen training nurtures this ability through both seated meditation and mindful presence in daily life. In Zazen, the still posture of sitting, we learn to release wandering thoughts, returning again and again to bare awareness. In practices such as calligraphy, tea ceremony, archery, or gentle martial arts, we cultivate this same quality of full attention within movement. In your own experience, you may recall moments of complete immersion. Perhaps while exercising, creating something with your hands, contemplating a difficult idea, or even during simple tasks like sweeping the floor or walking beneath trees. In such moments, the sense of a separate self softly fades, and a quiet joy of wholeness appears. The teaching of the archer applies to all aspects of life. Whether speaking with another person, caring for a loved one, preparing food, or completing your work, can you offer your entire presence to what is before you? Can you gently notice when your attention becomes divided, when part of you is here while another part drifts into worry or judgment? As the Buddha reminded us, there is no separate road that leads to peace. Peace itself is the path. What we seek is not found in outcomes, but in the quality of awareness we bring to each breath, each gesture, each moment. Tonight, as you ease toward rest, can you meet sleep with this same undivided presence? Rather than striving to fall asleep or worrying about the hours ahead, simply allow yourself to rest within the experience of lying down. Feel the weight of your body supported by the bed. Notice the gentle rise and fall of your breathing. Remember the Buddha's words, "Peace arises from within. Do not search for it elsewhere." The calm you long for already exists in the simple acceptance of this moment, exactly as it is. And now, let us enter a story about discovering new solutions by changing how we look at difficulty. This is the story of the Zen master and the Great Stone. In a quiet village surrounded by misty mountains, a massive stone had fallen from a nearby cliff and come to rest across the main road. It was so heavy that no group of villagers, no matter how strong, could move it. Many tried pushing together, straining with all their might, yet the stone remained unmoved. Others attempted to break it apart, but their tools left only shallow marks on its hard surface. Some tried digging around it, hoping to roll it aside, but the ground was firm and the stone deeply settled. After many failed efforts, the villagers decided to ask for guidance from a Zen master who lived in a nearby monastery, known for his quiet wisdom and unconventional insight. When the villagers explained their trouble, the master agreed to come. People gathered as the elderly monk slowly approached the stone. They expected him to suggest a powerful method or reveal a clever technique. Instead, he walked slowly around the stone, observing it from every angle, saying nothing. The villagers waited, growing restless. At last, the master turned to them and asked softly, "Why must this stone be moved?" The villagers were puzzled. "Because it blocks the road," one said. "It makes travel difficult." The master nodded and replied, "It blocks one way, yet perhaps it opens another." He then guided them to clear the land beside the road, shaping a new path that curved gently around the stone. Working together, they soon created a smooth passage. Over time, the stone became a familiar landmark. Children climbed upon it. Elders rested nearby. What was once seen as a problem became part of the village's identity. Before leaving, the master said, "Some obstacles are not meant to be removed. Wisdom lies in learning how to live with them or to move around them. What seems to block your way may be pointing toward a new direction." The Buddha taught that just as an arrow maker straightens the shaft, a practitioner gently guides the mind. This teaching reminds us that clarity arises not through force, but through skillful direction. The villagers were so focused on removing the stone that they could not imagine another approach. How often do we do the same? Zen teachings describe patterns that narrow our vision. One is attachment to expectation, rigid ideas about how things must be. Another is inflexible thinking, repeating the same action again and again despite resistance. A third is failing to question our assumptions. The problem was not the stone itself, but their relationship to it. When that changed, new possibilities appeared. Zen practice develops flexibility through paradoxical teachings that interrupt habitual thinking. Questions that defy logic encourage the mind to open rather than grasp. In this way, we learn to see from fresh angles. As the Buddha said, we become shaped by our thoughts. When the mind loosens its grip on familiar patterns, creativity and insight arise naturally. Consider a difficulty in your own life. Have you been pushing against a stone that will not move? What might happen if you paused and asked whether another path is quietly waiting to be discovered? Now let us turn to a story about releasing what weighs us down. This is the story of two traveling monks. Long ago, two monks were walking along a muddy road after heavy rain. The ground was wet and uneven, making their journey slow. Along the way, they encountered a young woman standing at the edge of a deep puddle, unsure how to cross without soiling her clothes. Without hesitation, one monk lifted her gently, carried her across, and set her down safely. She thanked him and went on her way. The two monks continued walking in silence for hours. At last, the second monk spoke, troubled. "We are not meant to touch women," he said. "Why did you do that?" The first monk replied calmly, "I set her down at the water's edge. Are you still carrying her?" In that moment, the second monk realized he had been burdened not by a person, but by his own thoughts. The Buddha taught that freedom comes from letting go, again and again. True release is not found in rigid rules, but in responding with clarity and then returning fully to the present. We often carry memories, judgments, and worries long after they are needed. Through meditation, we learn to notice these burdens and gently place them down. Tonight, as you prepare to sleep, imagine setting aside everything you no longer need to hold. Each concern can rest where it is until morning. For now, allow yourself to feel the lightness of an uncluttered heart. And finally, let us enter a story about inner silence. In an ancient temple within a busy city, a young musician once sat listening. Beneath the sounds of footsteps and distant noise, he heard a faint, steady rhythm. He discovered a small cricket living within a wooden pillar. When he asked an old monk how such a quiet sound could be heard, the monk dropped a coin to the floor. At once, many heads turned. "People hear what they are trained to listen for," the monk said. "Those who quiet the mind can hear what others miss." The Buddha taught that patience is the greatest strength. True silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of attentive awareness. As you rest now, allow the inner noise to soften. Beneath it, a deeper calm has always been singing, quietly, patiently, waiting to be heard. Subtle wisdom that is present in every single moment. Why is it so difficult for us to hear the crickets within our own lives? Zen teachings point to several sources of inner noise. The first is our conditioning to value certain signals over others. Just as nearly everyone noticed the sound of the coin but few perceive the cricket, we are trained to respond to urgency, volume, and drama, while quietly overlooking gentle experiences that may carry deeper truth. The loud often claims our attention, while the subtle waits patiently in the background. The second source of inner noise is what Zen calls the monkey mind. This restless, unsettled quality of awareness leaps from one thought to the next, rarely resting long enough to sense what lies beneath appearances. This constant movement of the mind creates a thin veil between us and direct experience, filtering life through layers of commentary and judgment. The third is our fading sense of wonder and presence. Children naturally notice insects, shifting clouds, small sounds, and delicate details because they have not yet learned to dismiss what seems unimportant. As adults, we often lose this unfiltered perception, missing the extraordinary that quietly resides within the ordinary. Zen practice cultivates what might be called living silence. Not the absence of thought, but a state of attentive openness that allows us to perceive beyond habit. Through meditation, we gently recognize when the mind becomes entangled in inner dialogue and softly return to simple awareness. This is not an effort to suppress thinking, but a gradual learning to sense what exists beneath and between thoughts. As the Buddha taught, all that we are arises from the mind. When the mind is filled with noise, we become fragmented and restless, unable to access the deeper clarity that silence reveals. In Japanese aesthetics, there is the concept of ma, the meaningful space that gives shape to the whole. In music, it is the silence between notes that allows melody to breathe. In conversation, it is the attentive pause that allows understanding to deepen. In life, it is often the quiet moments of openness that carry the most profound insight. The cricket in the temple represents these subtle voices of wisdom that speak continuously beneath the surface of our awareness. The intuitions we ignore, the rhythms we override, the quiet guidance we dismiss, and the gentle beauty we overlook. When we cultivate inner stillness, these voices become audible. Guidance arises naturally, not as commands, but as soft knowing. Tonight, as you rest in the calm of this moment, see if you can listen beyond your thoughts. Perhaps you will notice the steady rhythm of your breath, subtle sensations within the body, or a quiet insight about something unfolding in your life. As the Buddha reminded us, the quieter we become, the more clearly we can hear. In this silence, we may realize that the wisdom we seek has always been speaking. We simply had not yet learned to listen. As we continue our journey through Zen teachings, let us enter a story that reveals the power of simple presence. This is the story of the Zen master and the strawberries. A student once approached his teacher with a troubled expression. "Master," he said, "I have practiced Zen for many years, yet my mind remains unsettled. During meditation, thoughts rush in. During the day, worries of the future and regrets of the past pull me away. How can I find peace?" The master listened quietly, then said, "Come with me. I wish to show you something." He led the student along a narrow mountain path. They walked in silence until they reached a high cliff overlooking a vast valley. Below them, a river wound through forests and fields, shining softly in the afternoon light. The master sat near the edge and motioned for the student to join him. Then he reached into his robe and removed 2 ripe strawberries, placing one before each of them. "Eat," the master said gently. Though puzzled, the student lifted the strawberry and took a bite. The taste was vivid and alive, sweet, bright, and fragrant. He had eaten strawberries many times before, yet this one felt different. They ate in silence. When they finished, the master asked, "While you were eating, where was your mind?" The student paused. "It was here," he said softly, "only with the taste." "And in that moment," the master continued, "were you troubled by the past or worried about the future?" "No," the student replied. "There was only the strawberry." The master smiled. "This is the peace you seek. It does not come from forcing the mind to be quiet or reaching a special state. It arises when you are fully present with what is before you." The student hesitated. "But master, the strawberry was pleasant. What about moments that are painful or difficult?" The master nodded. "The practice is the same," he said. "Whether joy or sorrow, ease or discomfort, presence is always available. What changes is the experience, not the awareness that meets it. This is the freedom Zen offers." With gratitude, the student bowed. From that day on, he no longer struggled to escape thoughts. Instead, he devoted himself to meeting each moment fully, discovering that the peace he had sought was already present in the most ordinary experiences. The Buddha taught us not to dwell in the past or chase the future, but to settle the mind in the present moment. The strawberry represents any simple moment that reveals its richness when met with full attention. Why is presence so difficult? Zen identifies familiar patterns. One is the habit of mental time travel, constantly revisiting what has passed or imagining what may come. Another is constant evaluation, sorting experience into good and bad, desired and unwanted. This subtle resistance pulls us away from what is actually happening. A third is the belief that peace must arrive in a special form, causing us to overlook the quiet completeness of ordinary moments. The Japanese teaching of Ichigo Ichi, one time, one meeting, reminds us that each moment is unrepeatable. When we truly understand this, presence becomes natural. Zen practice nurtures this through sitting meditation and everyday actions. Again and again, we notice wandering and return. Walking, eating, cleaning, breathing, all become doorways back to now. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, can you meet rest with the same gentle presence as tasting a strawberry? Feel the weight of your body, the softness beneath you, the slow rhythm of breath. Wherever you are, be there completely. In this fullness, peace reveals itself quietly. Now let us turn to a story about clearing what obscures our true nature. This is the teaching of polishing the mirror. A young monk once approached his teacher after many years of devoted practice. "Master," he said, "I meditate daily and follow the teachings, yet enlightenment feels distant. What am I missing?" The master led him to a forgotten room where an old mirror lay hidden beneath layers of dust. "Was this mirror created by the dust?" he asked. "No," the monk replied. "Then what is needed to see clearly?" "To clean it." Day after day, the monk polished the mirror until its surface shone again. "Did your effort create its ability to reflect?" the master asked. "No," said the monk. "It was always there." "So it is with your true nature," the master said gently. "Practice does not create awakening. It removes what obscures it. Our thoughts, habits, and conditioning are like dust on the mirror. Meditation, ethical living, and wisdom gently clear them away." The Buddha reminded us that what we experience arises from the mind. Yet dust is never permanent. It can always be wiped clean. Tonight, as you settle into rest, imagine the dust of the day gently dissolving. Beneath it, your awareness remains clear, quiet, and whole. As the Buddha taught, look within. What you seek has always been present, waiting patiently beneath the surface. And now, let us continue with a teaching on simplicity and direct seeing. This is the story of pointing at the moon. One evening, a Zen master walked with his student beneath a full moon, its light casting silver patterns along the garden path. "What troubles you?" the master asked softly. The disciple replied, "Master, I study the sutras with dedication, yet the more I read, the more confused I feel. One teaching seems to oppose another. Some emphasize disciplined effort, others sudden awakening. Some speak of boundless compassion, others of penetrating wisdom. I cannot bring these teachings together into one clear understanding." The master listened without interruption. Then he stopped, lifted his hand, and pointed toward the full moon suspended in the night sky. "Look," he said simply. The disciple raised his eyes. The moon was round and luminous, floating silently in the vast darkness. "Tell me," the master continued, "are you looking at my finger or at the moon?" "At the moon," the disciple answered, puzzled. "And did you need to examine my finger in order to see it?" "No," the disciple replied. "Your finger only showed the direction." The master nodded gently. The teachings, the sutras, the methods, these are fingers pointing toward the moon. They are not the moon itself. They guide you toward direct experience, but they are not that experience. If you become absorbed in studying the finger, comparing it, debating it, analyzing its shape, you may completely miss what it is pointing toward. As they resumed walking, the master added, "The teachings appear to conflict because they address different minds, different moments, different needs. They are many fingers pointing from many angles toward the same moon. But the moon itself is whole and undivided. When you see it directly, there is no contradiction, only clear light." The disciple grew quiet. With each step, his attention shifted away from understanding and toward experience itself. The silver glow of moonlight, the gentle sound of insects, the cool evening air brushing his skin. For the first time, he sensed that wisdom was not something to be collected, but something to be entered. The Buddha taught that his teaching is like a finger pointing at the moon, reminding us not to mistake the pointer for what it reveals. Why do we so often confuse teachings with truth itself? Zen points to our deep reliance on concepts. From early life, we learn to navigate the world through names, ideas, and abstractions. Over time, this mental framework becomes so familiar that we mistake it for reality itself. Another reason lies in our cultural emphasis on acquiring knowledge rather than cultivating direct understanding. We are rewarded for memorizing, organizing, and explaining, and we unconsciously bring this habit into spiritual practice. A third reason is comfort. Concepts feel safe. They can be held and controlled. Direct experience, however, invites us into the unknown, where certainty dissolves. Zen responds with simplicity. The practice of shikantaza, just sitting, asks us to rest without grasping at ideas. We allow reality to reveal itself as it is. Even teachings about non-attachment can become fingers we cling to. This is why Zen sometimes uses silence, paradox, or sudden action, not to confuse, but to free us from overthinking and return us to direct perception. In your own life, notice when you become more engaged with explanations than experience. Tonight, as you rest, see if you can release all ideas about sleep, meditation, or even these words. Allow awareness to rest directly in sensation, in breath, in stillness. Look at the moon, not the finger. Now let us enter a story about our relationship with change and challenge. This is the story of the farmer and his horse. In a quiet village lived an old farmer known for his calm nature. Whatever occurred, he responded with the same words, "We'll see." One day, his only horse escaped. The neighbors came with sympathy, calling it terrible misfortune. The farmer replied, "We'll see." Days later, the horse returned, bringing several wild horses with it. The neighbors celebrated his good fortune. Again, the farmer said, "We'll see." Soon after, his son was injured while training one of the horses. Once more, the neighbors mourned his bad luck. "We'll see," the farmer replied. When soldiers arrived to recruit young men for war, the injured son was spared. The neighbors, now grieving for their own sons, called the farmer fortunate. Still, he said, "We'll see." The Buddha taught not to judge by appearances. Each event unfolds within countless causes and conditions. Zen calls this seeing beyond duality. What seems good may give rise to difficulty. What seems harmful may offer protection. The farmer met each moment without rushing to judgment. Zen practice trains this openness by helping us notice when the mind labels experience too quickly. We learn to pause, to remain curious. This does not mean we stop acting. It means we act without the added burden of resistance. Compassion flows more freely when judgment loosens its grip. As you reflect on recent events in your life, can you hold them gently, without deciding their meaning too soon? Everything is still unfolding. Nothing is fixed. Now let us explore a teaching about true wisdom. This is the story of the cup of tea. A scholar once visited a Zen master, eager to display his knowledge. As the master poured tea, the scholar spoke endlessly of texts and theories. The cup filled, then overflowed. When the scholar protested, the master said, "Like this cup, you are full. How can anything new enter?" In that moment, the scholar understood. Wisdom requires space. The Buddha taught that the beginner's mind is open, while the expert's mind is crowded. To learn, we must empty ourselves of what we think we know. Zen values emptiness not as lack, but as possibility. An empty cup can receive. An open mind can awaken. Tonight, as you settle into rest, imagine gently emptying your cup. Let thought settle. Let knowing soften. In this quiet openness, fresh understanding naturally arises, like tea poured slowly into a waiting vessel. Zen training nurtures this quality of the empty cup in many quiet and patient ways. Through meditation, we learn to notice when the mind becomes tangled in ideas, and we gently guide attention back to what is immediately present. The spirit of beginner's mind invites us to meet each moment as though it has never happened before, fresh, open, and unburdened by expectation. And Zen's emphasis on direct transmission beyond language reminds us that the deepest understanding cannot be captured by words alone. The Buddha taught, "To know but not to live accordingly is not yet true knowing." This teaching reveals the difference between information and wisdom. Genuine understanding reshapes the way we move, speak, and respond to life. Until insight touches how we live, it remains like tea that is never tasted, knowledge that never truly enters the cup. As you reflect on your own path of learning, notice moments when your cup may already feel full. Perhaps you enter a conversation convinced you already understand the other person. Perhaps you read new ideas through the lens of old beliefs. Or perhaps you face a challenge assuming you already know how it will unfold. In these moments, growth becomes quiet and limited, not because wisdom is absent, but because there is no space to receive it. Tonight, as awareness softens and the body prepares for rest, you may gently practice emptying the cup. Release what you think you know about relaxation, about yourself, about these words drifting through your awareness. Allow experience to reveal itself without effort or expectation. The Buddha said, "Empty your boat, and it will cross the water lightly." In the same way, when we loosen our grip on fixed ideas, life moves more freely, with ease, openness, and quiet clarity. Now we turn to a story about perspective and the limits of judgment. This is known as the Gate of Paradise. Long ago, there lived a samurai renowned for his skill, his discipline, and his unwavering loyalty to the code of honor. After many years of service and battle, he began to feel restless with questions about life and death, about meaning beyond the sword. Hearing of a Zen master living in a secluded mountain temple, the samurai set out to seek answers. After days of difficult travel, he arrived at the temple gate. An elderly monk of humble appearance came to greet him. The samurai bowed briefly, reciting his titles and achievements with practiced pride. Then he asked, "Tell me, master, what is heaven and what is hell?" The monk looked up at him and laughed sharply. "You call yourself a warrior?" he said. "You look more like a fool playing dress-up. What lord would trust someone so ridiculous?" The samurai's face burned with anger. His hand flew to his sword, drawing it high above his head in a flash of rage. At that moment, the master spoke calmly, "That is the gate of hell." The samurai froze. In an instant, understanding dawned. His anger, pride, and violence had created suffering within his own mind. Slowly, he lowered his sword and bowed deeply. The master smiled gently and said, and that is the gate of paradise. The samurai understood. Heaven and hell were not distant realms, but states born moment by moment through reaction or awareness. The Buddha taught, our life is shaped by our thoughts. What we think today becomes our tomorrow. This teaching reveals that suffering and freedom arise within, not from the world itself. Why do we so easily create our own suffering? Zen points first to reactivity, the automatic response to perceived threat. Then to attachment to self-image, the fragile identity we protect. And finally to the loss of awareness when emotion overwhelms presence. The quality known as immovable mind refers not to suppression, but to steady awareness amid changing conditions. The samurai touched this stillness when he chose awareness over reaction. Through meditation and mindfulness, we learn to observe emotion without becoming it. Through insight into non-self, we loosen our grip on fragile identities. The Buddha said, "You are not punished for anger. You are punished by anger." Notice in daily life how small gates of hell and paradise appear. A moment of irritation, a moment of patience. Each choice shapes the climate of the mind. As you drift toward sleep tonight, notice any restlessness or worry forming. Can you lower the sword, release the struggle, and choose ease? Freedom is always close, just one gentle awareness away. Now let us explore a story about wisdom discovered not through seeking, but through presence. This is Ryoan's moon. In ancient Japan lived a monk named Ryoan, known for his simplicity and quiet joy. He owned little and lived alone, yet his face reflected deep contentment. One night, a thief entered his hut, finding nothing worth stealing. Ryoan, seated in meditation, spoke softly, "You have traveled far. Please take my robe, so you do not leave empty-handed." The thief fled, confused. Ryoan watched the full moon rise and whispered, "I wish I could give him this moon." True wealth, the Buddha taught, is found not in possession, but in appreciation. So often we seek happiness outwardly, missing the abundance already present. The breath, the night air, the quiet moon above. Zen calls this beauty wabi-sabi, finding richness in simplicity and impermanence. As you rest now, can you see the moon in your own life? The quiet gift already here. The way, the Buddha said, is not found elsewhere. It is found within the heart. And so, gently, we turn toward another story, one about choosing the path that truly carries us. This is choosing the right boat. And the story continues, slowly, softly, as awareness deepens and rest unfolds. His most well-known teaching was striking in its simplicity. What is the sound of one hand? One day, a sincere young monk came to train under Master Hakuin. After completing his initial training, Hakuin gave him this single koan. "You must discover the sound of one hand," the master said quietly. "Until then, you will not yet understand Zen." The monk bowed and withdrew to meditate on this mysterious question. After several days, he returned for a private interview. "Master," he said, "I believe I have found the answer. The sound of one hand is the sound of water flowing in a stream." Hakuin shook his head gently. "No. Continue." The monk returned to his cushion. A week later, he came again. "The sound of one hand," he said, "is the wind moving through pine needles." "No," Hakuin replied softly. "That is still the sound of something. Go deeper." Again and again, the monk returned. "The call of a bird." leaves brushing against one another. A distant temple bell. Each time, the master sent him back in silence. Months passed. Slowly, the monk stopped searching for clever answers. The question began to work on him, not as a puzzle, but as a presence. It moved beneath thought, beneath language. One morning, while sitting quietly, something opened. There was no answer, only clarity. The monk hurried to Hakuin. When asked, "What is the sound of one hand?" he did not speak. His response was immediate, whole, and wordless. Hakuin smiled. The monk had stopped chasing explanations and had entered direct knowing. The Buddha taught, the finger pointing at the moon is not the moon. Concepts can guide us, but realization is lived. The monk's journey mirrors this shift from thinking about truth to being it. Why do we so often confuse ideas with reality? Zen teaches that we are trained to believe understanding comes from analysis and words. We feel uneasy not knowing, so we rush to conclusions. And we treat knowledge as something we possess, rather than something we embody. True realization is not something we hold. It is something we become. The Zen word mu, meaning nothingness, is used to cut through thought. When asked whether a dog has Buddha nature, Master Joshu replied, "Mu." Not yes, not no, but an invitation beyond the question itself. Koans are not riddles to solve. They are tools that exhaust the thinking mind until direct perception remains. The Buddha said, "As a mountain is unmoved by the wind, so the wise are unmoved by praise or blame." This steadiness does not come from ideas, but from realization that cannot be shaken. Notice the difference in your own life between knowing something intellectually and living it directly. Understanding impermanence is different from feeling it fully. Knowing about mindfulness is not the same as resting in awareness. Tonight, as you settle into rest, allow yourself to move beyond thoughts about sleep and simply experience what is here. Let go of effort. Let go of expectation. The Buddha said, "Don't just do something. Sit there." And now we turn to the final story, a story of going beyond seeking. This is the sacred mountain. Long ago in China, a young scholar named Li devoted his life to spiritual study. He read countless texts, memorized verses, and debated philosophy with great skill. Yet something essential felt missing. Hearing of a Zen hermit living on a sacred mountain, Li set out on a difficult journey. After many days of climbing steep paths, he reached the master's simple hut. After sharing a humble meal, Li asked, "What is the ultimate truth? What is enlightenment?" The master smiled. "Would you like some tea?" As the water heated, the master asked, "What did you notice on your way here?" "The climb was hard," Li said. "There were rocks and roots. I had to stop often to rest." "And what else?" the master asked. "There were pine trees, wildflowers, clear streams, and beautiful views." The master poured the tea. "And now that you are here, what do you seek?" Li hesitated. "Something final, something complete." The master gestured to the mountains, the tea, the silence. What you seek was present in every step. In effort, in beauty, in challenge. It is here now. "There is nothing to attain," the master continued. "Enlightenment is seeing the sacred in the ordinary." Li asked, "Then why make the journey?" The master smiled. "Because you believed the truth was elsewhere. Sometimes we must exhaust our searching to realize nothing was missing." The Buddha taught, If you could see one flower clearly, your whole life would change. We imagine peace lies elsewhere, in the future, under different conditions. Zen practice reminds us, this moment is complete. As we come to the end of these stories, remember what they all point toward. Not ideas to remember, but experiences to live. The Buddha said, the sun, the moon, and the truth cannot be hidden. May you rest now in quiet awareness, carrying nothing, seeking nothing. Peace is not elsewhere. It is here. Sleep gently. And when you awaken, may clarity walk with you into the day.